What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to StockWatch, the finale, the final episode of StockWatch for this season, maybe for a while. With me, oh my God, do I even have to introduce you?
Greetings.
Why? Stop.
I
Stop.
tried too hard to keep a straight face. I gotta be
already too formal. We've already lost our entire audience. Will,
hello.
how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Memorial Day, out of school officially. A lot of good things, and so yeah, and Survivor finale. Now it's the off season.
Now the painful off season. I've already done my daily 2-minute scroll on Reddit and already seen the off season post starting on there, and it's just gonna get worse and worse. And so those 2 minutes will probably go down to 1, and then 30 seconds, and then eventually I'll never scroll on there until the new season starts.
Yeah.
So
all the people who hated Survivor now talk about how much they missed the show and how they wish it came on again. You know.
Oh man, I gotta say, watching the finale of this season, all those like cheeky Jeff ads where he always goes, "Hey, this is your time to apply to Survivor. Get on now." I'm just like, thanks, Jeff. I mean, I'm going to, but thanks. Finale, not because of Jeff, but just because of how it was, really reinforced me wanting to apply for this show. Not just because it was a good finale. I guess it was a good finale, but
good finale.
The Survivor feeling was stoked in me. Like it's not like it's this weird internal feeling you get whenever you watch an episode of Survivor. And you don't get this if you're a casual. If you're just a casual fan, you don't watch this all the time. This isn't your thing. Like you might be like, "Oh, that's really good TV," or "That's a really good episode," but you don't get that really internal feeling that super fans. You don't get that rush. And so exactly. And so when I felt that during the finale, I was stoked. And I was like, man, I got to get on this show. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have that feeling every episode. I watch it and I'm like, I want this to be me. And I don't know. I feel like this episode, it was a very weird episode. Even though it was the finale, because, and we'll get into this later, I feel like the narrative of Survivor 44 kind of ended at the final 4, and everything after was just we saw behind the curtain, right? We had our cake, we had the Tika 3 at final 4, and then we ate the cake, and now we're bloated because even with Yam Yam winning, Carolyn making it to the final tribal council, people are still complaining that Carolyn didn't get any votes. And
we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. But I'm like, we got the cake, we ate the cake, now we're bloated from the cake. Yeah.
It's the natural Survivor cycle. It's the natural Survivor finale cycle. You really get invested. You're really like, oh, this finale is going to be sick. You get this finale and you go, wow, that's it. And then a day later, you're just like, I don't know. It was weird.
More.
Yeah. I will say, I really want to go to one of these events. Randy and Abraham went to
the whole Survivor
Bryson. Yeah. I gotta go. I've never been to a Survivor event ever. Like I haven't had the time, or I haven't definitely not had the money. Let's be real with that. Definitely not had the money. But I've never really had the time to go to one of these events. And I really, really want to because it just seems like a lot of fun. And now, especially that I'm old enough to publicly drink, I, would definitely like to go to one of these events because as much as I love watching Survivor alone and enjoying it and being able to talk out loud about it, I love being surrounded by people who love Survivor. And it's just one of the greatest community feelings you could get with any show, any movie, point blank. It's one of the greatest feelings of community you're probably ever going to feel.
Oh, yeah.
So.
No, I got jealous seeing Randy and Abraham. It's weird, too, because I've been here for a long time. I've seen Survivor now grow. I remember back before Randy and Abraham met, and I'm like, and now they're going to Bryce and Wendell parties and getting shout outs from Bryce.
Darn it.
I feel like a proud father, you know?
And I'm like a proud newborn son. As you may have noticed, we have a new layout.
We do.
I didn't design this. I'm terrible at graphic design, except for Edgic. I'm good at that. And Will did not design this. It was also Randy who designed this. I think it's pretty cool. I liked the old one, but it
felt like school.
It did feel like school. It felt like we were educating the class. This is a little bit more modern and hip or whatever, and so yeah. So this is the kind of layout. I like it. I think we should use it going forward. Yeah. So with this finale episode, we've been talking about it for the past few episodes of StockWatch. We've been thinking, okay, we want to go back and kind of do our own rites of passage on the castaways of the season. And so what I've done personally is make charts for the transformation, journey, etc. of every player who was in more than one episode. Sorry, Bruce. Sorry, Maddie. You guys were in one episode, so I don't really want to show a dot on a chart. I want to show 2 dots on a chart. So what we're going to do, Will, is we're going to go through every castaway of the season. We're going to go from first place, which is Yam Yam, and then we're going to go to 16th, which is Helen. And then we're going to kind of go over their journey, my take on their journey, and then we'll round off with Edgic, and then we will be done with Survivor 44, our first and definitely not our last season. Are we ready?
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's go. Bam.
Wow.
It was always edit-wise, it was always a close race between Yam Yam and Carolyn, and we kind of we believed that.
Yeah.
We believed that. We did not expect another 7-1. We really expected a 5-3, 6-2 kind of deal.
3-3-2. Anyone?
Yeah. Where's the 3-3-2 Trusayers here? It didn't happen. Another 7-1, the fourth of the new era, which clearly shows to me that it's clear that a consensus on the jury is the most important thing in this new era. Like, there always wants to be a real consensus on the winner, and then like those personal votes or those like pity votes are thrown, right? And so
I got friendship.
Yeah, friendship vote, sure. And so that's been the style for the past 3 seasons, and we thought this season was going to be different because it was edited very differently.
It was
not shown that way, and it was 7-1. No disrespect to Yam Yam, he clearly played a great game, and I really think the most important thing that helped Yam Yam edge the win was his relationship to Carson, because it became starkly clear over the finale that Yam Yam and Carson were super close, and Carson had a hold on the opinions of that jury. Carson kind of he was like, hey, I know I played the best game, but I'm out, but Yam Yam played the next best game, so you got to vote for him. And so that's, I think, that real edge that Yam Yam had. Not to say he wouldn't have won without it. Like, he definitely probably would have. He probably would have won without it. But I think that was definitely the over-the-top, like, oh, yeah, it's locked up.
Yeah. So my thing is, I think part of the reason why he won is because I think he was fine with trying to not cut other people down, but try to push himself as the one who really drove the Ticket 3. Yeah. We'll get into Carolyn more, but I feel like Carolyn was very timid at Final Tribal Council. She gave good answers.
Yeah.
She wanted to be like, the Tika 3 was its own entity, while Yam Yam was like, I drove to the Tika 3. I had Carson. I had Carolyn. And Carolyn was more like, this is how the Tika 3 did it. And I think that's why Yam Yam got the amount of votes. Because I think people would have been fine with voting Carolyn had she had more agency in the Final Tribal Council.
Absolutely.
But, Yam Yam, I think, did really, really well in the final tribal council and throughout the game. And I think he was able to use his goofy personality as an easy way for people to be like, you know what, I like this guy. And the one thing too, though, because it was 7-1 again, it makes me wonder how much is decided at final tribal council and how much is. I know people like to lie and say, "Oh, my vote is live." Half the time, it's not. You know. And I feel like most people went into final tribal council most likely voting Jam Jam, maybe voting Carolyn, but they, you know. And then
here's the stark contrast for me this season and last season. Last season, when they said their votes were open, I didn't truly believe it, but I believed it a lot more than this season. Because last season it was like, is Gabler really going to win? And then we found out a long time ago that it was eventually going to be, you know, what do you call it? It was going to be Gabler that was going to win. But you know, I think this season it was very, very clear, very, very clear that it was really going to be one of them two over Heidi. And it really wasn't that decided. And so you're right. Once Jam Jam started using I a lot more in perspective of the Tika 3 over Carolyn, who was using just with the Tika 3, I think that's what gave him the edge. But I really don't think they were as undecided. Carson says, who do you think went in undecided? I think that's I don't know. What do you think, Will?
I think the biggest indecisive ones are like always the early jurors because they miss a lot of the game. Someone like Brandon, maybe Matthew,
Kane, I think as well.
Kane as well. I feel like Kane would have gotten swayed by Carson. In a similar vein, I think Matthew could have gotten swayed by Franny, but then Franny never even voted Carolyn in the first place. So, what's going on?
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people, they went in, you know, and maybe even Jamie could have been under. Like, I feel like she's a third party. But and then I feel like no matter what happened, just throughout the final tribal council, Danny was always going to vote Heidi, which we all saw coming. Like,
for sure.
I saw people surprised that Danny voted Heidi. I don't see how anyone could be surprised by that. You know, but
absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if it were to be people who were truly undecided, it was going to be most of that original Ratu. Brandon, Kane, Jamie. Don't think Lauren personally. I think she was pretty on Jam Jam because she respected Jam Jam. I think definitely those other Ratu 3 and then probably Matthew as well. But once it got past the final 8, it was pretty clear, like, okay, these people are going to vote for these people. Although Franny kind of shocked me, but, you know.
Same, but not disappointed with Franny. Like, I get it.
No, I get it as well. Let's take a look at his overall. Jam Jam's overall. Taking a look at the chart. He has been in the top 4 of contenders every episode but 2 this season. The premiere and the episode where he got like over the top negative, and that was the one where Sarah went home. Yeah. He like I personally, and I'm sure Will did as well, we pegged him early on as this guy has a really great shot to win the game. And besides that one dip in episode 4, it just kept building. To the point where episode 7 on, he was the number 1 the whole time. And I think we don't get that anymore. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, Gabler, we had no idea. Marianne was a very late contender coming out. Erica was very late as well. Tony, you can make an argument. Like, Tony, you can make a pretty decent argument that, like, by episode 9 or 10, he was, like, the top contender.
Sophie Boot.
Yeah, but not by episode practically 6 or 7. For Jam Jam. Like, he was number 1, number 2, and he rode that wave the whole time. There were doubts. There were moments, you know, obviously episode 4 was a doubt, but also moments of,
late murder,
you know, lack of control or the boosting of others. Like Carolyn, one of those episodes, she had CP positive 4, like complex personality positive 4.
Yeah.
One of the really great episode for her. And you think, oh, okay, Jam Jam might move down, but I think we made a good decision by keeping Yam Yam at number 1 because Edgic victory, contender victory.
Yep.
We were right. But yeah, Yam Yam had a great journey. Great player, great character. If there's ever a return season ever again, more than welcome to see him again. But yeah, moving on. Heidi. I think I don't know. Heidi made the move that she needed to. I think she needed to make to have a chance, like at least somewhat.
Yeah.
Like throwing yourself into fire is a very big move, but what we just saw with this episode compared to 38, like let's look at these two in comparison. Chris Underwood had a very, very long shot chance to win going into the final 4 if he didn't win immunity or if he won and just kept it safe. Like it was very long shot. Unless the jury really just loved him 100%, it wasn't going to happen. Then he goes into fire against the biggest threat in the game, takes him out, and then has a better case than Gavin and Julian wins the game. This episode, the fire-making elimination, fire-making challenge, has proven to everyone that just because you volunteer to go into fire and win does not mean you automatically win.
Yep.
And I think that might have been a general kind of assumption from a lot of people that if you volunteer to go into that fire challenge, you are not locked in to win the game. You're not confirmed. And I think we saw that with Heidi.
Yep. And I'm kind of glad this happened. Because I remember the fallout of season 43, where the biggest thing was Cassidy should have given up immunity and built fire against Jesse.
Yep.
Because that was how Gabler won.
I remember that.
Then you realize and you think it's like, you know, how much of that is true and how much of that is just the jurors trying to cushion the fall of Cassidy by saying, because they don't want to say Cassidy, we just like Gabler more, so we gave him $1 million.
Right.
You know, it's easier for them to be like, oh, well, you should have given up fire or should have given up immunity. And we can even talk about Natalie Anderson from Winners Up War.
There you go.
Right?
Exactly.
She should have given up immunity, build fire against Tony.
That is not a valid argument anymore. That is not a valid point.
Is now completely up in contention. And my problem with Heidi is that I think she tried playing hard a little too late because she came into the game wanting to play under the radar. Yeah. That's great. But there's times in moments where you have to like sneak out of the radar and put your head above the water, and you normally do that around mid merge, right? You have to do something. It doesn't have to take out the biggest threat, but something that you can attach your name on. That way you can hide longer, and you can just say, hey, I did this, when I had to. Because then when you get to the final 4 and the jurors know that you had to have made fire. Because Chris Underwood, they knew that he had to have made fire. And I think that was a knock on Heidi's game, because then it's like, what have you done for 25 days where you had to make fire against Carson to have a shot against Yam Yam or Carolyn?
Right.
Besides that, I think still she played a really, really solid game. Again, very under the radar. And I think she was kind of the sane one of the Soka members with Danny, how he was kind of a hothead all over the place. I think Heidi was just as much as in control as he was, and was able to use her connections better. But it's not that she played bad, it's just Yam Yam played so much better.
Right. Carson says, do you think she could have played her steal a vote advantage differently? This is the control vote, I'm assuming, from the Matt vote, to better build the resume, or was it the right move to not burn as many bridges? This has still been contentious. Like, I still heard people arguing about this. What are your thoughts about this?
So, I don't think, no matter how you slice it, for me, it is that big of a resume building move, right? Because it didn't work out, and Matt still went home, right? I think had that worked out, it could have been a resume building move. But at the same time too, like if I was a juror, I don't know how much I would respect just finding a piece of paper and voting out one of 2 people that were eligible. But that's more me. I think she should have played it differently, because again, Matt still went home, and that burnt a lot of bridges, and she kind of caught heat for that, right? And so had she stolen someone else's vote to vote Matt out, I think that would have went a lot smoother. But instead, she just put herself on the losing side, and had to go into self-preservation. And so I think that wasn't really a plus for her game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more a source issue. I don't think, like I said, I don't really think Franny should have won total immunity for that group for a challenge. She should have thrown it once she was at the end. So I think that's more of a source issue. But if we're going based strictly off of Heidi using that advantage, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like at Final 11, especially nowadays, like in the new era, like it's really Final 7, Final 6 when you actually want to start making moves. And even then, when Jesse did it in 43, he was a target at Final 5 and 4. So it's a really tough call, and it really depends on the cast. But regardless of that, I think now in this new era, Final 11 is too early to really try and make a resume building move unless you're like 100%. It will never get out that you were involved in it at all until the very end at Final Tribal Council. So I think it was more. I don't know if she had to play it. I don't think she had to play it. I like the call. Like I like the idea wanting to save Matt because Matt's an ally. And that's favorability for a jury vote because you tried to save him. But I don't know. I think if she didn't play it, she's kind of doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. She does play it, she does play it. We saw what happened. She became kind of a target for that. She doesn't play it. She loses trust with her Soka allies. Matt still goes home. All that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I think it's kind of a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't kind of scenario. And I really think they should have taken one look at that challenge, had a little whisper before the challenge, and be like, okay, if one of us gets to the end and it's just the final 2, throw it, just lose.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's it. But overall, yeah, I mean, Heidi was shown to Heidi was shown to be a pretty good player. Like Heidi was shown to be a pretty good player. I think she made someone, I forget who, someone in the cast in one of the episodes made an analogy about Heidi that she was a shark. I think it was Carson, saying Heidi was a shark and she was staying underwater and then she was going to pop up and nab somebody. I think half of that is correct. I think she was a shark and I think she stayed underwater, but I don't really think she ever really came up out of the water until it was too late.
Yeah. And
the kids were already gone. They were at their beach house or whatever. So, yeah, and I mean, contenders wise, most of the time she was in the top half of everybody in the game. She did pretty well overall, and she was edited well as well. But then it kind of started to fall off in the end, and you're going to see with the Edgic kind of how I kind of portrayed that little end. But Will, final thoughts on Heidi?
Again, solid player, but I feel like you rank everyone in the season into tiers. I think she just missed out the highest ranking. I think the highest ranking is still Tika 3, including Carolyn, even though we saw what happened in the final votes. But I think she solid A tier player this game, along with like Franny, and maybe even Danny.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's right up on that tier, but I don't think she crosses it because this season was literally the Tika 3 season. So. All right. And speaking of, lots of people are mad. Lots of people are very, very butthurt about this. Like very, very butthurt. Yeah. I'm not just saying like very, very butthurt to be like everybody's like, no, Carolyn not just didn't get a vote. What? This is the worst decision ever.
like, did you want her to lose and still get it? Like, did you want her to get votes but still lose? Like, we got our cake and we ate it, and the cake was delicious. Yam Yam winning was delicious cake, and now we're bloated with Carolyn getting 0 votes.
Yeah, like everybody's like, "Hey, Yam Yam won. That's great." But if Carolyn won, it would be so good. And I agree. Like, I'm not saying I disagree. Carolyn should have gotten 1 vote. Sure. Like, I totally agree, but I think it's getting a little too much because I see it everywhere. That being said, I think what we talked about with the final 3 in the FTC, Carolyn talked a lot about the Tiki 3 together and not a lot about herself in the Tiki 3. And I think if she talked about herself a lot more in the Tiki 3, I think she would have been really contentious for some votes. And I think it's also kind of a matter of edit versus gameplay, edit versus showing to the jury. Like, edit-wise, besides her first 2, I mean, not even besides that. Overall, she was great. Like, overall, edit-wise, she was always a really high contender in the game. Like, she was never that low at all. So, I mean, edit-wise, absolutely she should have gotten a vote. I think game-wise and I think jury-facing-wise, I just don't think it was going to come together against Yam Yam.
Yeah. The problem is that she didn't know how to separate herself from the Tika 3. Mm-hmm. And I think she was someone that went into the game more for the adventure and game, but she felt more adventure oriented and played the game as she saw fit. And she played a very loyal game, and a lot of like the big pluses we gave her for her social game wasn't her playing the game. It was more just Carolyn being herself, and people responded very positively towards it. It's just when push came to shove, we saw how the jury voted. Right. Now, at the same time, had there been only 1 Tika in the final 3, and that been Carolyn, I think Carolyn would have won the game. I think because the jury wanted a Tika to win, and we had our cake. We had both Yam Yam and Carolyn, and so Carolyn didn't know how to separate the 2 Tikas, and so instead of them splitting votes or doing whatever, they just voted 1 Tika member, which is fair.
Right.
And so that's the biggest negative with Carolyn. I still think, though, that she was the beating heart of season 44 along with Yam Yam.
Hands down. Write it down.
If you removed either one of those 2 players, season 44 would not have been as fun as it was. It would not have been as compelling. And so she might have gotten 0 votes, but she got the Sia prize at least.
She did. That she did. I personally think Carolyn's ideal final tribal council would have been herself, Heidi, and Jamie, and I think she would have won the game. With Lauren, it's a bit of a toss-up. If Lauren was there, I think Lauren could potentially get some votes because of her story and her underdog kind of status. But I think if she was there with Jamie and Heidi, I think that TK3 thing is 100%. And even with Lauren, I think Carolyn would probably still win the game. But yeah, I agree. Like, Yam Yam was a great character this season. Of course, it was a pretty great character this season, however game body he was. But it was really Carolyn, in both of our opinions, that was this season. That was the beating heart of the season. A lot of times on Survivor, a lot of the third place finishers aren't edited so great. Like, I'll take 2 examples. Troyzan from Game Changers and Natalie Tenorelli from Redemption Island. Troyzan had 1 or 2 great episodes in the pre-merge and then disappeared for the rest of the game. He was never there. And he basically got nothing. Yeah, exactly. And then Natalie basically got nothing as well. Like, I think she got 1 or 2 episodes where she had even a little bit of focus. Can we please be thankful that Carolyn did not get that, and Carolyn got this really awesome, really positive, and really just fun edit, and that these third place finishers have gotten really, really interesting edits over the new era. Carolyn, obviously. You have Owen, who's like this Charlie Brown.
I love Owen.
Charlie Brown kind of character. Romeo, who was a contender early on and then kind of dipped and then did the fake auto thing in the end. And then you have Xander, who's like a fan favorite, who like, you know, had a good time. Like,
moms loved Xander.
Exactly.
I love Xander.
Facebook moms love Xander. I love Xander. I'm a Facebook mom. But yeah, we've seen like normally these third place edits just don't have the legs. But you know, even with Survivor 40 and Survivor 39, like, you know, for a few seasons now, we've seen these third placers really get kind of memorable edits. And Carolyn, in my opinion, is the most memorable. And I think, you know, we're going to remember Carolyn for a long time.
Yep.
In Survivor. Long time.
And one thing, too, about Carolyn is that we mentioned season 39 very briefly. And I'm glad that she did not get the Nora edit. Because Nora and Carolyn are very similar because they're both very zany. But Nora was I felt very negative, right? Where she acted weird and it was receptive.
That wasn't really game-wise the strongest player.
And it was just, you know, but then we had someone like Carolyn who was weird and zany and people still loved her. And we even saw her thought process in the game. And so, you know, R.I.P. Nora, you know, did Marilyn proud for all 2 episodes. But Carolyn played a great game, and I think will come back. Like, of anyone from the new era, Carolyn, I think, would be the first person they invite back. And
yeah, absolutely.
Recency bias, but I will stay.
I think anybody would stand by that, and I think any future season, anybody's going to stand by that.
Yep.
And yeah, just taking an overall look at the contender kind of journey for Carolyn. I mean, yeah, again, she was a very strong contender for most of the game. Like, she had moments where she dipped, but she always kind of came back, and it was really contentious for number 1, number 2 for Yam Yam and Carolyn at the very end. It was like, it's going to be one of these two.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up being Yam Yam, which we called. But, you know, Carolyn was right there. And I think overall just great.
Mm-hmm.
Carson. Let me see. Personally, I think people thought the fire making foreshadowing was like, oh, it's not going to happen. His game's going to go up in flames and all that. And everyone else thought, you know, okay, he builds these 3D puzzles of Survivor puzzles. He's a genius. And he doesn't know how to make fire? That makes no sense.
Yeah, how do you buy 3D models of the Survivor challenges, but you don't spend $3 on flint?
No. Hold on. He said, I remember specifically, he said, when I was home, I would be making fires easily. 3 minutes. It'd be easy. I'd have a fire. It'd be perfect. Right on Survivor, and they showed us a clip of this as well. At the very beginning, and overall through the whole game, Carson was very nervous while making fires. He was bad at making fires. And, you know, if I didn't pick up on that, pick up on that at the very beginning. I remember the moment now, but I didn't pick up on it at the very beginning. But kind of seeing it, and if you didn't really understand that moment at the very beginning, this would come out of nowhere for you. You'd be like, what? Carson doesn't know how to make fires? Are you kidding me? Like, it would come very out of nowhere for a lot of people. And so, yeah, I mean,
I just don't know what changes from being at home, you know, in your backyard building a fire and then being on a beach in Fiji. You know, it's not a huge
nerves.
I don't know. Dog, you have 25 days to build fires to calm your nervousness.
It's a difference. It's a big difference. Staying at home with like nobody watching, and making fires. You know, if you learn, it's easy, right? If you learn, it's easy. You go on a show with 6 million viewers and a bunch of cameramen and a bunch of people around you. It might get a little hard to make some fires. Like you might get a little nervous. The hands might get clammy. I don't know. But that's not what That's not what I want to talk about Carson. We already talked about him having kind of a hold over the jury. What I want to talk about is this kind of debate idea between the two best fallen angels of the new era. Heather was great, but she's not one of the best. And Jonathan, was yeah.
He tried.
Yeah, he did it right. But Jesse versus Carson. Who, if they were put in a fire-making challenge against each other, or if they had to go against each other at a final tribal council, who would win the game? Or who would win fire?
Jesse. I think Carson would win fire. Jesse would win the game.
Okay. I agree. Yeah, I think Carson played a better physical game. I mean, he won 2 immunity challenges. Jesse won 0. There you go. But, Carson actually did good in challenges. And if you got to the end of the challenge and you got to a puzzle, it was over. Like I was saying during the Final 5 challenge, like we get to the end of the challenge and there's a puzzle and Carson's there and it's like, wrap it up. Carson's going to win. It's a puzzle. Jesse was never good at physical challenges and was never good at fire making. And Carson, who was bad at fire making, made a fire. But I think if Jesse does somehow get to the end of the game, hands down he wins. I think he wins unanimously. His story, his game, everything.
Carry himself too, like.
Yeah, exactly. It very well could be like an 8-0. Could also be a 7-1 if Carson was there, because if Carson had someone who he played with who they really liked Carson and all that, they give him a vote. Like, I don't think Carson would necessarily go voteless, but if Jesse gets to the end of the game, he gets to the final tribal council, hands down, he wins. But I think a lot of people are saying Carson would win over Jesse if he gets to the end, and I just don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think Carson played a great game, and I think matching it up against anybody else this season, it's obvious that edit-wise he wasn't going to win, but he did play the best game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. But Jesse, like Jesse was going to win. Like Jesse had the ring locked up. Who clapped? Who got clapped for as they were being eliminated? Who got clapped for? Carson? No, he didn't get clapped. He played a great game, but he didn't get clapped. Who got clapped? No. Jesse.
I think Jesse played the second best game of the modern era. I think the person who played the best game in the modern era was Yam Yam, because he was able to play a very dominant game and was able to win despite his threat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where Jesse, Ricard, and Omer all fail, even though those three would also be.
And Carson too. Carson as well.
He was a threat, and as dominant as Carson was, again, he got out of the Final Four. And that's the biggest knock to Jesse's game is that Jesse lost. And that's the same thing with Carson, is that Carson lost. Anyway, we're talking about Jesse more than we're talking about Carson. We're going to talk about Lauren and then really talk about, I don't know, Xander for an hour? No, exactly. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I don't know, like, It's Carson had one fire making challenge and he was close. Like he wasn't too far away from it. He was close. Like it doesn't matter. Carson or Jesse makes the end in their respective seasons, they win the game. It's one fire making challenge. It's never going to be a debate of what if they made the end? Would they win? If they made the end, they were going to win the game. But it's just that fire-making challenge, man. And I think a lot of people are like, well, this sucks. Forced fire is terrible.
I don't agree.
I don't like it. But it's not the worst because now people can really, really prepare for it and really, really know to watch out for it. So I don't mind it as much anymore. When it was started, like mid-30s, like I was like, this sucks. This is terrible. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm mixed about it. But yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. Carson, contender-wise, overall, you're the top pretty much every episode, except towards the end when we kind of figured out, like, oh, hey, he's going to he's going to lose the game. But on paper, fantastic at it. No problems. But, paper and the show always don't kind of correlate together. Lauren. Good ending for Lauren. That idol fake out was terrible, though. We all knew she didn't. We all knew she didn't have the idol. But
I can't believe you had Lauren at 20th. I think this is the first time I really noticed that you had Lauren that low.
Wait, why does it say I have her at 20? Hold on. That shouldn't be right. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way you had Lauren at 20.
No, because there wasn't 20 people in the season. I have her at 15 for the first episode, and I guess the trend line must have been screwed up. But yeah, like just move like the left half of the dots like down a little bit, like aggregate wise, and then you got Lauren. But yeah, you're gonna see I gave Lauren under the radar positive for the season because I think overall her positive moments heavily outweighed her one premiere episode where it was negative. She was not really a true defined, like she is an underdog, point blank. But she was an underdog. She kind of needed to win that Final Five immunity challenge and fire her Final Four to probably make the end. But she played a good game. She had good allies. She had a good social game. She never got voted in until the Final Five, the last time you could be voted for. She played good. She played a good game. Do I think it was A tier? No, I think it was B tier compared to all the others in A tier and S tier. But I think Lauren played good.
It was a less dominant version of like Carolyn, right? She had a positive impact on the season. Would I want her to come back out of everyone in 44? No. If she comes back in a future season, will I be upset? No.
Yeah.
And, I feel like she brought personality into the game. And sometimes I don't need, 20 game bots running around or 18 game bots. Sometimes I want just a Lauren, which comes in and she's like, hey, I hate Jeff Probst, and that's okay.
She presented her story. And I think that story was really great, and I think it gave a lot of depth to Lauren that I didn't, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't expect going into the very first episode. But yeah, minus the kind of screwing up of the dots on the chart, she really kind of started to come into her own, and we thought, oh, okay, this could be a comeback edit. Like she was negative in the beginning, and then she starts to narrate a little bit, and then she really builds later into the game. So this could be a comeback edit. And then as kind of the TK3 came to the forefront, and she kind of fell back, it was more like, okay, Lauren's going to do okay. I personally didn't expect Lauren to get 5th. I thought Lauren was going to get 7th or like 8th or something like that. I didn't expect 5th from Lauren. And so good on her. Yeah. Really good. Really good. Okay. And now we're moving into the other players. Everyone who was eliminated. We're going to continue to go down the line. Yeah. So Jamie. Oh, Jamie.
Jamie.
The unceremonious, over-the-top edit of the season, but I don't think this season. I also don't think this season would have been what it was without Jamie.
No, Jamie played such a weird game. She got dunked on more than anyone else. Probably more than anyone else in the modern era, and yet she still had a very positive impact on the season, which is very important. Right. And I do not blame her for believing the idol was real, because she found it with who she thought was her closest ally, and then he got immediately removed from the game. So they're like, I don't blame her at all, right? Because plus too, like she didn't tell anyone about the idol. She wasn't like, hey, I had this, it went away with Kane, and I also think it's really adorable how they were trying to plan around the
The knowledge is power.
That was really fun. Like, I feel so bad because I feel like Jamie played a Discord survivor while on the beach of Fiji, you know?
Oh my god. To kind of cap off Jamie, I want to kind of compare her to the other, and I think we should do this with probably most of the other players, unless their game was really, really awesome that we should just talk about on our own. But comparing her to the other sixth place players, she definitely didn't play the best. Don't think she played the best at all.
Do I want her to come back, though? Absolutely.
Oh, yes, we do. I think Jamie on a returnee season would be chaos casting, and we just need that. We just do.
Dominant winner.
She becomes one of the most dominant winners of all time. Absolutely. Yeah. Is she rank the 4 6th place finishers out of the modern era in terms of memorability? Not in terms of gameplay, in terms of memorability.
Who were the memorability?
It was Jamie, Cody, Omer, and Danny.
Number 1 is Omer. I think he has a brand at this point with the emu shirt.
He literally does.
Second for me is Cody, just because I loved Cody. You could put Jamie there. Third is Jamie, and then fourth is not. I mean, the 6th place or 6th finishers are very solid. Like
they are
last, but I loved seeing Danny on the challenge. Danny is was a cool person. Yeah. And so Jamie sits comfortably, along the ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think Jamie falls behind at all in terms of memorability, personality. I think she's right there, and I think you're right. I think these 6th place finishers have been really good, and I hope that trend continues because it's a really great kind of regime building of 6th place finishers right before those five-person finales. Danny. I never saw Danny as a real contender to win the game. I'm going to be honest. I never really saw him as winning the game. I think they tried to brand him as this kind of Tony character, and I never saw it from him. And Danny was good. I just didn't really like him like that much. I'm going to be honest. I didn't really think he's probably one of my least favorite from the season. I want to hear what you think, though. Yeah, I think so.
Also, real quick, Carson said we didn't see a lot of the storylines due to editing, but I feel like we did not see a lot of her social game referring to Jamie, which I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like her role was more of just unintentional comedy, as bad as that sounds. And I think she had bonds with everyone because she seems like someone that would just be friends with everyone on the season. But because I don't think it ever had an impact on any of the votes, which is why we didn't see it. But that's about it. But for Danny, I actually really liked Danny because Danny was someone I actively rooted against, and he was fun to root against, and that's what Survivor needs. The fact that we called Danny a villain or the villain from season 44 shows that we don't really see villains at all anymore. But even then, it's like Danny, he was very cocky, very arrogant, very emotional in all of the challenges where whenever he lost to like Franny, he would just be like, dang,
get off.
Stupid. I hate Survivor. Out of everyone from the late merge, I'd probably want Danny back the least. But at the same time, too, he also just seems like a fun guy. You know, Robert De Niro impression at the very end was very stupid.
It was. I don't like it.
What was he wearing at the Final Tribal Council?
I don't even know what he was wearing at the Final Tribal Council.
It was stupid.
It was terrible.
But at the same time, too, had Danny not been in Survivor 44, it would have been less funny of a season. And for that reason, I'm glad he played.
I'm glad he played as well. I think we needed a villain. Did I like him? No, I would have liked him more, like a more defined kind of villain and not like a discount or like a default. Like, okay, Danny's the villain. I think talking about Survivor 45 a little bit, we saw in the trailer someone said, "I'm not a villain. I'm opportunistic." And I'm like, "That's the villain I want to see. That's the villain That's the kind of villain I want to see in Survivor." He says, "I'm not a villain. I just like taking opportunities." That's what I want to see. I want to see someone be like, trying to defend that they're not a villain when they are. That's what I want to see. Danny never really claimed to be a villain or anything like that, but he was kind of just the de facto,
Yeah.
So and then Danny's okay.
All right.
Yeah.
They make fun of me for not liking Carson. Messed up.
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, Danny's kind of stock was never really that high. It was just kind of floating at the bottom middle for me, and I'm pretty sure for you as well, Will. I don't think there was no real shot. He was no real shot he was ever going to win. Franny, we like Franny. This is a like a Franny podcast. I mean, she played a fun game. She won some challenges. Her competition percentage is pretty darn high. I think it's pretty good comparatively to everyone else. Like, she won most of the competitions that she played in. I mean, Franny played a good game, and I think I can appreciate Franny as probably being in the B+, A- tier for the season. Yeah, I'm fine with A. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Same tier as Heidi.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like with Franny, I feel like her game went wrong at a certain point, but I feel like in alternate timeline, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, had Franny not, or if had Franny thrown that one challenge and saved Matt, would Franny win the game? And I feel like that was her that was her big downfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the game, like, this narrative went along a certain path where Franny was never going to win, but had, it's like the butterfly effect, right? Had, one thing happened differently on like episode 3, Franny would have won the game. I think Franny is going to come back eventually and play a very solid game. That's my crackpot theory. I think Franny, along with like Harlan and Yam Yam, will be the first of the people that they ask back.
The casting favorites.
And because Franny brought a lot of joy on Soka. She made me enjoy a showmance for the first time. I hate showmance, but like, that's good. Her, Matt, they were weird, but the fun kind of weird.
Yeah. So I think to cap off Franny, we'll kind of compare her to the other 8th place finishers. 8th place has been a very good or very positive place in these new era seasons. We've had Noelle in 43, we had Hai in 42, and we had Shan in 41. That is a regime of players. That's a very good list. And Franny, I personally think, rightfully belongs on that list as a great character player.
Oh, yeah.
So, absolutely. And again, contender-wise, Franny was doing pretty well. She was pretty near.
Always near the top.
Always near the top middle. She did very well, and her edit was pretty good. It was very middle of the road, admittedly. But, that is a definite B-type contender, like a traditional one. So, yeah, Franny did good. And now we move to Kane. I don't think we got to talk much about Kane. Kane played a game. He did.
He was the least visible this season. He was Purple Kane. But we still got enough from Kane to like have standout moments. That's the one thing. I don't really think anyone this season really got a purple edit. I don't think purple edits really exist anymore. I think they've tried to get away from that as like much as humanly possible, but they're still kind of 41, especially.
Yeah, I think they're really trying to avoid that. But yeah. I mean, Kane played good. Kane was a nerd. We knew that. And Yeah, Kane played a fun game. I think he really did a good job to kind of repair his relationship with Brandon. And I think besides that, his game was all right. And that's all we can say. And Brandon, poetic justice for Brandon that he idles out someone in the first episode and then gets idled out in his last episode. But I really want you to pay attention to the absolute flat line. It's basically flat. You see that trend line for position on there? It is basically flat. Like he was either in the middle, near the top, kind of near the middle, and then eliminated.
Voted out.
Yeah, like it was super, super flat. Flat means pretty good. You want it to be like slightly slanted down for like a perfect contender, like number one almost all the time. So, it would look good if you survive past episode 8. But yeah, I enjoyed Brandon. What do you think?
I think Brandon, I do feel bad because I feel like the biggest moment I think of when I think of Brandon is unfortunately the sanctuary with him, Danny, and Carolyn.
Really? You think that's his biggest?
That's what I think of when I first think of Brandon. And then I think about him, using the idol and the bird cage and whatnot. But I'm still just like, I think Brandon, though, I feel like he unfortunately got the early juror edit where he wasn't that prominent in the storyline. But at the same time, too, he had some good plays in the pre-merge, right? I don't entirely fault him for the bird cage because no one knew what was in the bird cage. And so, I know they probably thought it was like a tribal thing where they would get an advantage in the challenge. I do not fault Brandon at all for that, right? Yeah, like I like Brandon. I don't have the biggest opinion on him, but it's slightly positive, which is kind of how he was edited throughout the game, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my opinion of Brandon is positive. And I think, just to kind of finish off on Brandon, I think like the idol cage twist, I think Brandon was a perfect example of how unpredictable that twist could have potentially been and how great it was. My opinion, leagues better than the Beware advantage, a million times better than the beads were okay, but like this was the best iteration of hiding the idol. It makes it interesting, makes it fun. The amount of fakes got a little excessive, but other than that, I think.
But the payoff with Jamie.
Oh, that payoff. I was dying. It was so funny. That payoff at the end at the reunion when Jamie was like, "It's fake." Like I loved it. Although Jeff kind of scared me when he said, "Oh yeah, this is coming back. This fake idol, it's coming back." And I'm like, "Oh no." Now we're kind of getting into stuff we haven't really covered that much. People we haven't really covered that much, and we start with Matt.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. We're diving back. We're kind of peeling back. We won't go too much into all these players, but we'll kind of recap how they did and what we saw. I think Matt was much more about the showmance rather than Franny. I think Franny was more about herself than the showmance in terms of edit, and I think Matt was more so like 100% pretty much about that showmance and about working with Franny. I think that was it. Is my power going out? Oh my goodness!
Please don't. Power outage.
That would be bad. So if I lose connection, but yeah, I think Matt was about the showmance, and I think that's it. But that's not to speak bad of him. I think Matt played a fine game, and I think that he got taken out due to an unforeseen and unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, I don't think he would have made it that much farther outside of the twist. And I think he was similar to Jamie, where it was more about the adventure and finding himself because he came in with emotional baggage. And who knows? Maybe because he got out the way he did, we didn't see a lot of his more strategic side, unlike Franny. But I think he got what he wanted out of Survivor, which is important, And I will say too, he is like the most Gen Z / millennial player to ever play Survivor. Just I feel like the way he talks and handles himself, is pretty much like one of us, Jack.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think I'm going to be honest. I was very high on Matt early on in the season. I was like, oh, yeah, Matt's got. Yeah, I was first 2 episodes. I was like, Matt's got a real shot to win. And then episode 3 kind of was like, oh, okay, it's about the showmans. And then I was like, all right, see ya. But yeah, Matt was good, and I enjoyed Matt. I love Josh so much. I enjoyed Josh. Josh was personally one of my favorites from the season. Just, God, I wish he had so much more because he was so bad at Survivor. He wasn't really that good at the game, but darn it, I loved it because he made it entertaining. And that's the, really great story, but just didn't really know how to really be good at Survivor, but just was so fun to watch. Like, I love Josh. It was awesome.
Josh, I feel like early on he wasn't shown almost at all. He was very invisible. And then the second it was time for him to like leave, he somehow stayed, and then just something went off inside of him where he just went from like just a normal guy trying to play the game to just chaotic villain over the top.
And I loved it. I loved it.
With Yam Yam, the fact that he made the merge is genuinely
baffling to me.
The whole idol stuff, the idol, like everything about the idol, and like Carolyn and Yam Yam immediately sniffing it out is so funny to me. I wish he made jury.
I wish he did too. Like, it is so baffling that man made the merge. I don't get it. Like, he got saved by a tribe swap, an idol, a medical evacuation. Like, he got saved by the bell like a million times. And I'm so thankful because we wouldn't have got just this absolute mess. I love him. I think he was great.
Yep.
And now I was high on Matthew. I really thought he was going to do great. And he was, honestly, like, he was doing a really good job. But I think what did it for me between episode 3 and 4 was that shoulder, man. Like, that shoulder, just like his content started to become less about the game and more about his injury. And I was like, oh, no. Because if it's about the injury for a little bit and then it kind of starts to evolve into strategy and how you play, we know you're going to be fine. Like, we know you're good. If Matthew said, oh, this injury sucks, I hate this, but he gets better and he starts to talk more strategically, he goes deep. Like he goes far into the game. I think late jury. I think he gets eliminated because I think he'd win. But, like, I think he goes, like, late jury, like 7, 6, 5 kind of area. But, man, it's just unfortunate. Once he started talking about that shoulder more, it was just like, man, is that going to do it? He's climbing a rock on, like, day 1 or 2, just going to end Matthew's game, and unfortunately it did.
And he got teased, too. Like, that's his legacy, is falling off a rock.
Yeah. It sucks. Like, I don't want someone's legacy to be falling off a rock on Survivor. I think a lot of people are like, Matthew did it to himself. He doesn't deserve to come back. It's just like, man, he wanted to have a good time. He did.
He wanted to live.
And, for the time he played, he did not play bad.
No.
In fact, he played pretty darn good.
He played great.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he will come back. Maybe alongside a lot of the other medically evacuated. Maybe Bruce. I know Bruce is coming out with 45. Maybe Jackson or Pat. What's his name? Pat? I forgot his name.
Yeah,
the guy from you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, because like he had all the makings to be a very again. Everyone was high on Matthew in the first few episodes. Go check anyone's edgix, anyone's power rankings. Everyone was high on Matthew, including us.
Yeah.
And I don't really blame anyone for not realizing that his shoulder would progressively get worse, especially around episode 2 and 3. But it is what it is.
We love you, Matthew, and we're sorry that you climbed a rock and dislocated your shoulder. Sarah played good, and I think Sarah was. I think more like the producers and the team like Sarah like a lot more, because I think she would have basically got shafted. Like she would have gotten nothing if she wasn't liked by the producers, but she was liked by the producers, and she got a decent like narrative edit. I think it's really interesting though, and kind of really looking at a little bit of post-game press. Carson was never going to work with Sarah and Helen. Like it was never going to happen. Carson, I think, knew that who didn't have a vote. It was Sarah who didn't have a vote, right?
Yeah, Sarah didn't have the vote.
Yeah. I think Carson knew that Sarah didn't have a vote, and didn't really want to force a tie or do anything. But beyond that, like Carson loved Carolyn and Yam Yam and was with them. Like Sarah and Helen basically like isolated Carolyn and Yam Yam. Like they did not talk to them really much at all. It was just those two and Carson. And I was like, oh, okay. So the show showed us that it was, two sides of the coin, and Carson was kind of in the middle trying to decide, but really it was just Carson was going to go with Carolyn and Yam Yam. Yeah, and that post-game press kind of revealed it. Did I expect Sarah to get idled out because of Josh? No.
Did anyone expect Josh to idle out anyone?
No, absolutely not. I did not expect that, like, really at all. Like, I mean, no, like, that if that was the way for Sarah to go, whatever. But yeah. But Sarah, I enjoyed Sarah. I thought Sarah was fine.
I love Sarah. I want her to come back.
You want a lot of people to come back. You're like, I like Sarah, but I think she's good. I think we're good.
Nope. She will come back alongside Jamie, and they will run the game.
Oh my god. The crackpot's got too far. We're on our last two, and then we'll go to Edgic. Claire. Woo boy.
I also want Claire to come back.
I was high on Claire. Like I thought Claire at the first episode, I was like, okay, she has something. Second episode, I was like, oh yeah, Claire's gonna do it. Claire's really starting to come out. And then over the top, -5, bam, you're gone. Goodbye.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot to say about Claire. I think the sit-out queen badge, like she never competed in a challenge. I think it kind of screwed her. I think Jeff had a little bit to do with that as well. Pesky little Jeff Probst.
He did make a big deal about it too. When people like Sandra never compete in challenges,
Yeah. You don't compete in challenges, Jeff's gonna call you out. But like, that was actually a point of her going home. Like, it's not really been like that. It's usually like you're physically weak or all of that, or you're just not the greatest in challenges. Never have we really seen like the biggest reason really for someone going home was that they just sat out of all the challenges. So, yeah, but Claire's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Helen, the most asinine increase of a trend ever. Yep, probably ever. She was number 3 for me. Going after the first episode, and then she got eliminated. Helen played fine, but the same thing with Sarah. Like post-game press, she and Sarah did not talk to Carolyn or Yam Yam really at all, and it was just they always thought it was going to be them and Carson. And then when Sarah lost her vote, it was like there's no way Carson's sticking with them. There you go. So yeah, I mean. Sucks for Helen. She had signs of being a great player, but it never came together. And that's sometimes how it is in Survivor.
He's going to be one of those random players that in 10 years, people are going to be like, guys, Helen needs to come back. Kind of like how I am with Sarah now. What are you doing?
What do you mean, what am I doing? What do you mean?
I'm hearing this loud noise, and it's coming from you. It's very annoying. And
okay.
Anywho.
Sorry about that. Anywho, that's Helen.
That is Helen.
To close out, as we always do, we like to look at the edge. And I'll kind of give my opinions in the finale and then the overall, and then we'll kind of take it away. We'll kind of end this little thing. Yam Yam, I put as a complex personality positive for sure. Like back half of the season confirmed it, but kind of earlier on it was a little in question, but really just complex personality most of the time and just super positive most of the time as well. Heidi, I put middle of the road. Some people might go like, oh, okay, she might be like a light CP at it. I don't think so. I think the middle of the roads were very clear from Heidi. I think she was very middle of the road, especially towards the end of the game. She had that last CP episode, like the finale, but, just middle of the road for me. Carolyn was over the top medium. A lot of people are arguing over the top medium or complex personality medium. I say over the top just because Carolyn did not win and didn't get a vote. And I think if she got a vote or did win, I think she would have been complex personality. But she just was more over the top, and I think that was focused on a little bit more. Carson, classic complex personality. You could make the argument that he's like middle of the road positive, but, game bot. Uh-oh, my power's looking grim. Because my light just went out. There we go. Power's looking grim. I think there's like a storm going on outside, so this is great. And the light is like blinding right now. Oh my god, what is happening?
All right, quick.
Light show speedrun. Okay, and Lauren was under the radar positive. First negative episode, but really built it up. Complex personality positive. It looks like the light is gonna be fine, but it's a little bright. Will, any final thoughts on Survivor 44 on our first season of StockWatch? Any thoughts at all?
Actually, no, I don't have any thoughts. This was just a normal season of Survivor, and I hated doing this podcast with you, Jack. Gotta be real.
God, it sucked for me as well. Well, truly just abominable.
No, so this could be recency bias. I think this is the best modern era season. Mm-hmm. I think it ranks high with 42. I think it beats 42. I think this is around the I'd say top 20. Top 25 at least.
I agree. Top 20.
I don't think it's anything higher than 20. From like
I don't think it's anything higher than 15. I think
18
is where
to 24
I'm happy.
Is where I'll place it.
Yeah,
I think that but like at the same time too, it's like I'm very positive on most seasons of Survivor, even the more negative ones. Mm-hmm. And so everything from like 37 up I really enjoy. And so 20 might be low or lower, but it's still a very good season.
Yeah, I agree. I think this season top 20 for sure. I wouldn't put past 15. I think if we ever did a season ranking, I'd have to properly define it, but just off the top of my head, I'd put it at like 18. It's a great season of Survivor. It just doesn't break into that upper echelon of like Survivor defining seasons of Survivor. Survivor defining Survivor. But it was a great season, and I think people are going to look back on it positively, and most importantly, are going to look back on the Tika 3 positively.
Yep. And Franny. And Sarah Wade.
And Franny. And Sarah Wade. And Helen. And maybe Claire. And Josh.
Especially Josh.
God, I love Josh. We have been renewed. We'll be back for Survivor 45.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I just hate doing this podcast with Will so much.
I know, it is the worst.
Woo! Yeah, it's bad. But we will be back for Survivor 45. And I appreciated doing this podcast. It's fun. I did not think I'd be doing this personally. I thought I'd be just like sitting on my, sitting on my like PS5, going like that, and just hanging out. But I have enjoyed doing these podcasts Monday at 9:30. It's fun, but I enjoy talking about Survivor.
Oh, real quick too. Looking at 45, I just want to say my winner pick for season 45. I already have it.
Okay.
Hannah Rose is winning Survivor 45. Do you know what?
Remind me who Hannah Rose is again?
She's from Baltimore, and that's all I need to know.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for Will.
And she's a counselor. So
great.
More counseling.
Cool. I think Will has location bias.
No.
But yeah, we've been renewed. And so we might see if we can do like a special podcast during the summer where we go back to a season and we kind of look at, how it was, how it kind of turned out over time. We'll see if we can do that. We'll see if we can also do like a Survivor season ranking and update it with 44. We'll see if we can do that. But otherwise, other than that, that's going to be it. Survivor's done, so we're done. We have graduated season 1 of Survivor StockWatch. This has been Jack and Will with the stocks. Will, you got any final comments?
Jack, if Saving Bruce plays anywhere near you, will you come to our show?
If it's near a 30-minute radius of Blacksburg, Virginia, I will come.
All right, we're going on world tour, so
let's go. I'm coming. All right,
2026.
Okay, dope. Marking it down right now. Okay. This has been Jack and Will with the Stocks. We appreciate you. We thank you for watching our zaniness, our nerdiness, our fun. Like, we appreciate it. And we hope to see you all soon. Toodaloo.